Happening now on Grid Tonight, the chase for the cup is back. Will the return of NASCAR's original playoff format with some changes improve how a champion is crowned? Kaulig Racing and Ram are planning some big things. Can Smoke earn his 20th win at Daytona? And which driver will win the new competition reality series Race for the Seat? The Rosin family, founders of Prima, have stepped away from the team. What does this mean for the future of its racing programs? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth. With me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports, Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, and Tanner Smith from Pit Box Press. Throughout the show, leave your comments and questions in the chat for us to display, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Now, here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening. Good evening, Matt. Good evening, Tanner. And welcome, everybody. I'm delighted to be back on for another year here at Grid Network on the Grid Tonight Show. And just before we get into it, I just want to say, because we went on last week, thoughts and prayers with the family and friends, both of the Biffle family and, of course, with the Hamlin family. That was awful. We've had such a horrible off-season. Thoughts and prayers with everybody as well. And I know there's going to be some wonderful tributes when we get into Daytona in a few weeks' time. So, speaking of NASCAR, at a press conference on Monday afternoon, NASCAR announced its new championship format for the 2026 season and beyond. After receiving a significant amount of criticism over the years and finally coming to a crescendo a couple of months ago at Phoenix Raceway, the elimination-style playoff system is gone. As a result, NASCAR is going back to its roots by introducing a modern version of the Chase, the sport's original playoff system back from 2004 throughout 2013. Now, NASCAR felt that this format was the best way to move the sport forward after listening to owners, drivers, manufacturers, tracks, broadcast partners, and, most importantly, the fans. Now, the three main points NASCAR collected from the playoff committee and fans were to have a larger sample size for a championship, bolster the importance of each race, and reward consistency while maintaining the importance of winning. Now, looking at the graphic on your screens, here's the full breakdown of the chase. Now, in order to make winning matter more than ever, each race winner will receive more points for winning races. The winning driver will receive 55 points for a race win, with the potential of 75 points if they sweep both stages, and 76 points if they get the Xfinity fastest lap bonus point. With the extra stage at the Coca-Cola 600, a total of 85 or 86 points are possible. The win and you're in is officially gone. Winning a race no longer guarantees you an automatic spot in the postseason. A driver won't get to win the Daytona 500 and finish the regular season 30th in the points and coast to a playoff berth like the years in the past. Now, instead, consistency and strong performances throughout the regular season will only reward the top 16 drivers in points after the Daytona regular season finale. Now, in the chase, we won't have any more round of 16, round of 12, round of 8, or the championship 4. Like the original chase, we'll only have 1 point reset for the final 10 races, and the driver with the most points will be champion. Now, before the chase begins, the regular season champion, Ajib, will kick off the postseason with a 25-point advantage over second place, as points reset at 2,100 for the championship leader, all the way down to 2,000 points in 16th place. The last driver in the chase will have an uphill battle starting 100 points back. We'll also see this format in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Craftsman Truck Series, with the final 9 races making up the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series chase and 12 eligible drivers, plus the final 7 races in the Truck Series and 10 eligible drivers. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell said when deciding to bring back the chase, they looked at who we wanted to be as a sport moving forward and embracing the hardcore NASCAR fan who've supported them for a long time. The graphics in this segment are all courtesy of NASCAR. Well, Matt and Tanner are with me now to discuss the chase. Matt, starting with you. Welcome back from me to you. Do you think that this modern version of the chase is an improvement over the elimination style, the one race championship deciding format we've had for the last decade?
Well, Happy New Year to you, Josh. Happy and welcome back, and Happy New Year to Tanner. Happy New Year 2012. Oh, hang on. The race for the chase, for the quest, for the cup, for the thing is back. Yeah, pleased, very pleased with all of what you've just gone through and that was announced on Monday. There is still going to be a lot of people, and one of them is a member of our extended grid family, that I think Tanner would kind of tend to agree a little bit that, everyone wants the 30, not everyone, but there are still a proportion of the fans that want the full season points back. And I think they've gone about this in the right way in terms of getting a bit of that without having that, if you know what I mean. So we're going to have the first part. Hello, Matt. Hello, Ben. We're going to have that first part of the season as we've known it for, some time to get to race 26. Then we're going to have the one and only reset. And then we've got a 10 race run to, I guess now we can't call it the championship race at Homestead, can we? It's going to be back to old days of the chase. Is going to be back to Ford Championship weekend at Homestead, because all three series hopefully will be decided on that final weekend of the season in November at the final race. Homestead next season, we wait to see what happens after that for 27 and going onwards, because don't forget, NASCAR did say they're kind of perhaps rotate the season finale. I'm pleased. I know the winning you're in did rub a lot of people up the wrong way, but and then to some degree that's gone. But you are still going to have people that haven't won a race getting in after 26 races on points, that aren't going to win the championship, much like the people, the Harrison Burtons of this world, that won a race to get themselves in. They're not going to win the championship. You're still going to have those people at the back end of the ladder there that still aren't going to win the championship regardless. And again, that's kind of fine. The only gripe that I perhaps have with this, well, not the only, but the one gripe that sort of stands out to me is there is a chance that this won't go all the way. There is a chance that this won't go all the way to Homestead. And there is even still a slim possibility that we turn up in Homestead and we all welcome everyone into the broadcast. And just let's pick a name off the top of my head. Tyler Reddick today, he only needs to finish in the stage. He only needs to collect 7 stage points no matter where he finishes today to wrap up the championship. You could still have the championship won before the end of the last race, during the last race. I think that's a pretty slim chance that's going to happen, but it still could. And then I'm preempting here, people will be rubbed up the wrong way. But overall pleased. I think, there's obviously when we got onto the playoffs as it was the last few years, there was all the chat of the eliminations took away from the winners. Bubba Wallace, the key one from last year, he's won at Indianapolis, Crown Jewel, Brickyard 400. And they stuck the microphone under his nose and said, Bubba, well done, you're in the playoffs. It's like, give him a chance to celebrate winning a big race. So that kind of thing has gone away, and that's pleasing. I just hope that we're going to have a similar kind of racing for, the odd point here and there that's in stages and things. It's going to mean a bit more, especially towards those last 3 or 4 weeks, for people that are below the cut line at the end of the season, trying to race their way in on points, by staying out and scoring stage points and getting an extra bonus here or there. Stuff like that is, has always been fascinating, and now, perhaps will be even more so with other elements thrown into it. I'm very pleased about what's been said and has come out, and let's hope that it lives up to the billing, because let's face it, we're not going to get another change again for a while, are we? It's going to be probably 8 to 10 years of this. So let's all be happy and positive about it if we can, make the most of it and be excited about it. And what have we only got 5-6 weeks to go now before we're at the Daytona for the 500. So it's after you mentioned the negativity of things happening off track with the Biffles and the Hamlins, the trial, all the stuff that happened at the end of last season at Phoenix. Let's push some of that, if not all of it, negativity away and be positive about what we've got for 26 and going forward. I'm really excited for the season to get going.
Well, glad to be back here with Josh, Matt, and Kobe. Now, as for this new old points format that's making its way back into the NASCAR Cup Series and extending for the first time to the lower series, I know that obviously coming hot off the heels of last year's championship race, I had some very excoriating thoughts that extended to the points format that we had at the time. And I was kind of, willing to burn it all down if we didn't get the 36 races that we all so desired. But after everything happened with the trial and just the general tenor of this off season, frankly, I'm just ready for it to end. And because of that, I have a little bit more of a nuanced take on what we have now in front of us rather than what we had before. With this particular system, I don't think it's perfect by any stretch. Let me just, step out in front and say that. But with that in mind, I do like most of what they came up with. I think that if NASCAR is to have any sort of a quote unquote postseason, I think that obviously the chase in its initial form or even in its wild card form that eventually came in the 2011 to 13 era of time, I think those were the best versions of it. But the problem was that obviously Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus dominated so many races and eventually so many championship campaigns just due to the fact that the schedule was so stagnant in those last 10 weeks for several years. So every year your attention should always have been, if you're at one of the big teams, to those final 10 tracks. And Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus had it pretty much figured out. As a result, they went on to win an unprecedented 5 championships in a row, 7 overall, including one of the playoff championships in 2016. With all that said, I think that this does a fairly adequate job of making both sides of the aisle a bit happy in a lot of ways. For one thing, obviously, playoff points are no more. I think everybody should be happy about that. It's kind of silly in hindsight, in my opinion, that we had a point system within a point system that we had to keep track of all season. On top of that, obviously when you're in, completely dead, thank God, rest in peace. We are all going to be so happy when somebody that 24th in points goes out and wins a race after a trying season at like Nashville or something. We're all going to be happy about that. We're going to be like, wow, that's great for, Daniel Suarez or Josh Berry. That's going to be great for them that they, were able to nab a win. And instead of being like, oh, well, I guess Chris Buescher can kiss his playoff hopes goodbye, like we used to have to. With all that said, though, I'm glad that we're going to be able to enjoy wins as they are and enjoy races more in a vacuum rather than always having to see the forest in every race. I mean, if you really go back and think about it, the 2024 Nashville debacle that went into 5 overtimes and Logano ends up winning, it's really a shame that we can't just celebrate the fact that Joey Logano was able to run 109 laps. Granted, most of them were under caution. But for him to be able to conserve enough fuel to run 109 times, I think that track is 1 1/3 mile. Like that's an extreme amount of laps and amount of miles on a tank of gas. And we should have been able to appreciate that rather than being like, well, Joey Logano's in 18th in points right now, and now he's going to have a chance to run for a championship that he eventually won. So being able to enjoy races in a vacuum is a massive improvement in my mind. But all in all, I'm really glad about the adjustment that they made to the winner of each race getting pretty much enough points to separate them from second place, no matter what second place does at the end of the day. There would be a very slim possibility that second can still outscore the winner of the race, but it would be supremely unlikely for that to happen, that the second place driver won both stages and got the Xfinity fastest lap to vault over, while the winner didn't have any stage points whatsoever. All that said, I think those are a ton of positives to carry into it. Obviously, I think a lot of us would have liked to have seen a full season points format, obviously rise back up. But at the end of the day, based on the way Mark Martin made it sound, it didn't seem like 36 races from a playoff was going to happen regardless, which I'm a little upset with the fact that they even let us think that that could happen to begin with, if it was never possible. But at the same time, if compromise was something we were working towards, then I would say this is a pretty solid one, all things considered. I think the one thing that NASCAR needs to pay extreme attention to, though, is something I pointed out earlier when I was talking about Jimmy Johnson and his 5 straight titles. They must rotate the chase schedule every year. You may have staples like Fall Talladega and, the Roval or Fall Charlotte, whatever it is. You can have that. But at least like maybe 4 or 5 of the tracks, half of the races in that chase need to be cycled out every year. It has to happen. Otherwise, you are going to have stagnation. You are going to have somebody running the score up on people in the last 10 races. You're just going to have Hendrick running the show like they used to. So with that said, I got to say, I'll tip my hat to Steve O'Donnell and whoever else at NASCAR helped contribute to this decision. It's a step in the right direction, a massive step in the right direction after years of just stomping in the mud.
Massively. I've got a few comments to come in. Adam says, I love this. If former drivers like Mark Martin, Dale Jr., Kenny Wallace, and Jeremy Mayfield like it, it's a grand slam. I think that's the thing. It's a bit better, as you were saying, Matt, than what we had before, and Tanner, what you're saying as well. There's still some parts that could be improved, and they've just mislead us a bit. And when it came up, I was in our group chat, I was saying, oh, it's the chase, isn't it? It's going to be the chase. And then 3 seconds later, the chase. Adam also says, by the way, if this chase format happened last year, SVG would have been in contention for the championship. And that's because he was so dominant. But I've got a feeling it's going to be a lot more. He's got to improve on the oval still this year, and he can't just count on the road courses. And sorry, Matt, I know that's probably what you're thinking as well.
He had one top 10.
Yeah, and as I keep banging the drum, he did that in Xfinity in his 1 year. He wasn't very good at the beginning, but by the end of the year, he was in and around the back end of the top 10 most weeks. Yeah. Ben says, in all seriousness, best possible outcome other than a full season championship, it's a step in the right direction. Most important thing is the one race finale. He's gone.
So my microphone is breaking.
Totally forgot to atone for that. Yes, that's gone, obviously.
Behind the mic as well, Matthew Owens is here, the Oracle, saying you could have the championship won at Martinsville, which NBC would absolutely love, to the point of putting Homestead on USA. It seems to be at the moment, if you take a look actually at NBC's social media for NASCAR, it actually says NASCAR on USA, not NBC. So there's a big highlight with how the TV deal was maybe not the right one to do with them. If that Reddick scenario happens, I will blame stage racing for it more than the championship format itself. I think that's a good point that Ben's put out. And he's replied to Matthew saying, true, but if someone has a 76-point lead going to Homestead, there will be 0 questions being asked whether they deserve their title. That's also another great roundabout way to put it, because circling to about 5 weeks, Sunday is the Daytona 500. Yeah, but we've got 3 weeks is coming up as the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray.
32 days.
Yeah, not that long at all. And then so we've got so much more to do, and we've got Rolex next weekend as well to stoke up our Daytona veins. Northside driver came into the chase 14th of the championship standings, 200 points off the lead after 26 races. Hey, stranger things have happened. He's back. We'll get to that later. I severely doubt that's going to happen, but if it does, all the more reason to go back to full season points.
Keeps falling for Ben's trap card.
Rest in pieces at winning you in. Nobody liked winning you in. To be honest with you, do you remember what I said to you about having last year a format similar to the chase? I said about how if we had, just remove the win you in, put it all on. I said keep the playoffs, but just remove the win you in, and that would change the format enough. I like how NASCAR sort of split it and said, right, we've removed winning you in, but we'll go back to the chase and tweak it. It does seem like a nice little compromise. And Tanner, to link back to what you said, because during the press conference announcing the return of the chase, NASCAR invited Dale Earnhardt Jr., Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, and the fiercest critic of the playoffs, the Hall of Fame, of course, Mark Martin, who you mentioned earlier on. Now, although Martin would have obviously preferred going back to full season points, he was willing to accept the new format as the most perfect compromise that leaves all stakeholders as winners. Now, he also mentioned how the traditional fan that's been turned off by the playoffs always say how they've stopped watching. But Martin encouraged them to come back because we're finally heading in the right direction. Now, for the last several months, Martin was also one of the elimination-style player format's biggest critics, saying that he feared his legacy in the sport was being diminished. Now, during the press conference, it was revealed that the playoff committee initially wanted to throw Martin out of the room because of his strong opinions against the playoffs, but they were able to work together and come to an outcome as cooler heads eventually did prevail. Now, on a separate note, one of the positives of the chase returning is being able to widely celebrate, as you mentioned, both of you, the underdog wins and the cool moments again, without it all coming under scrutiny due to the winning you in. And for example, in 2024, Harrison Burton took a car that was outside of the top 30 in points and made the playoffs after winning the regular season finale at Daytona. It was also the 100th victory for Wood Brothers Racing, which was a huge moment in the sport for one of NASCAR's oldest and most historic teams. Now, instead of celebrating a driver's first career win and a special moment in NASCAR history, people were very upset that a driver who ran poorly all year long made the postseason. So, Tanner, linking this all back to you, going back to this, how important was Mark Martin's role in the system changing? And are you relieved that the special moments and underdogs wins can be celebrated again without the dark winning you in playoffs cloud hanging over it, and I'd even argue hanging over the entire sport?
So I think that Mark's role in all of this was important to the committee. However, I would urge you all to, anyone that, was paying attention to this process, I would urge them to be reminded of what Mark said. He is an earpiece for the fans, or a mouthpiece, I should say, for the fans. And a ton of fans brought this to his attention. And he was given a platform by NASCAR in this committee, and he used that platform to basically be that mouthpiece. And the fans told him they want a full season format, and he made that known. Granted, it sounds like, according to Jeff Gluck from the Athletics reporting, that he was the only person in the room at the time beating the drum for that. It certainly seemed that for a significant stretch of time that NASCAR and the sanctioning body were pretty committed to just switching to a 3-3-4 format, where I take it they would have had 16 drivers and then dropped it down to 12 and then to 8 and then ran the final 4 races with 8 people in contention for a points championship. With that said, I mean, obviously, I do think Mark deserves a lot of credit for obviously being willing to be that mouthpiece and willing to take in that information from the fan base and then subsequently, present it where it mattered most. He definitely seems to be someone that the fans feel like they can trust when they tell him something, he's going to express that on their behalf. And, honestly, as somebody that was a massive proponent of moving back to full season points, something that hasn't been the points format since I was 7 years old, I really appreciated it. That said, I still think that the fan base writ large that wanted this change needs to be given a little bit more credit as well. I think that after Logano's 2024 title, where he averaged, I believe, a 17.1 average finish for the season, would have ended the year 14th in the actual point standings or something to that regard, 14th or 11th, one or the other. Obviously that lit a fire under the fan base in a lot of ways, but then seeing how Hamlin had his championship violently ripped away from him in an overtime instance there in that championship finale this year, I think everybody, saw that along with the actions of the 2 previous days where Corey Haim had to literally pull off an unprecedented move at Phoenix to secure the title that he so obviously deserved by winning most of the races this year. On top of Connor Zilic having an immaculate campaign get completely flushed down the drain via the fact that he didn't win the one race over his best friend Jesse Love in the Xfinity, now O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. I'm never going to be able to get used to that. But with all that said, I think, like I said, the fan base definitely needs a little bit more credit in all of this. Obviously, I think that I mentioned this in my previous answer that these, unheralded teams that often don't have the enduring success of a Hendrick Motorsports or a Team Penske or a Joe Gibbs Racing, seeing them win a race during a, less than stellar season should be a cause for celebration and should be considered more of a turning point for a team season or, a feather in their cap rather than a golden ticket. And I don't remember exactly where I wrote this, but, I feel like for the longest time, the NASCAR Cup Series has been obsessed with acquiring the golden ticket to the playoffs. But if any of you all have watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, you would know that in order to get the golden ticket, you have to purchase a Wonka bar. And I think that we have lost the art of, loving the Wonka bar in our pursuit of the golden ticket. Like, we have forgotten how good that chocolatey goodness is. Like, we have forgotten the rich flavor of each race in pursuit of an ultimate goal this whole time. I pointed it out in my previous answer that we have had to, for every race, consider the forest way too much. And I'm just glad that, this time around with this point system that we're probably going to be saddled with for at least the next, I would say 3 years at minimum, 5 to 7 years at max, that, this definitely does make the forest still a healthy part of the image, but we can focus on the whole, like we can focus on each individual tree or shrub in the forest when we come across it rather than staring at the whole picture the entire time. So, whenever you see a driver get their first win this year, you'll be thinking about how awesome that is for their career and how they'll be building off of it rather than, I wonder if they'll be able to pull some miracle run out of a hat and win the entire thing this year. That's not something we should have to consider when somebody wins their first race. So all of that said, Mark Martin definitely deserves a fair amount of credit. I think the fan base deserves a good bit as well. And yeah, I think that underdog victories will hopefully be getting their proper light of day now that we're not focusing on the postseason so much in the regular season.
Umpa Lumpa Fiddledy D. I don't know where to follow that up with. What an all-encompassing answer, Tanner. Great stuff. Mark Martin said on the teardown, which they recorded after the announcement on Monday, Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi, they had him on. He said, "This is the first time NASCAR's listened to me in my whole career." So, you know, they didn't listen to me as a driver when I was pointing out problems, rule changes, things that might need doing, all that kind of thing, when he brought anything to their attention. And now they've finally caved on Mark. And it seems like everybody, not everybody, I keep saying everybody, the majority of the fan base is pleased with the outcome. And as I said before, we can only hope that this season brings about, look at he won at Nashville, and what a great story X was, you know, winning at such and such racetrack. And he's someone like Brad Keselowski, you know, a long winless run, finally picks up a win somewhere, and we can go, yeah, well done, Brad, good for you, and not have to go, oh, well, he's, as you mentioned before, like Josh Berry, oh, he's taking a playoff spot away from somebody. Like those early weeks of the last however many years, you know, Daniel Suarez winning at Atlanta the other year by the length of his tongue. Well, he's won, but he's in the playoffs. He's not going to do anything. Now we can, you know, celebrate those moments as they are, which, you know, is very important indeed. And to your point, we've lost that over this last little while. So, just to round up really from my end, got fully behind all of it really, and we just have to wait and see how it pans out. And then when we have panned out a little bit, we can go, oh, actually, they probably made a mistake here or there or whatever. With whatever comes our way.
Just to go back to that Umpa Lumpa, it was the Umpa Lumpa dickety doo. Have I got a playoff system for you? Thank you. If that gets clipped and my voice ends up on TikTok, it started here at the Grid Network, so make sure to like and subscribe. Matthew says, I promised there was a way to be happier for Harrison Bennett and appreciate Joey Logano's fuel run at Nashville. You just had to choose to appreciate it. Yes, much the same as I choose to enjoy the dental work we're going to have in a few weeks' time. They are both fantastic achievements, but irritate me massively. I, for one, promise that there was a way to do both of those things while also remaining critical of the system that created the implications of both of those wins. Agreed. Because it just got ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's see what this does, though. Are you confident that we're going to have a good chase?
Yes, I am up for the chase.
Yeah.
I'm very much up for the chase, as Ben has pointed out in tweets and videos. Just need a bit of Bradley Walsh sprinkled in.
You beat me to it. I was going to say.
It will be the Dark Destroyer. Adam says maybe have Atlanta as a season finale one year. What's to say that we need Daytona now as the season finale? You know, as Hannah mentioned before, we can shake up the chase schedule.
Yeah.
What's we shake up the whole thing?
I'd love to start and end the year at Daytona. Personally,
I don't think we can. I don't think Daytona having the finale is a great idea.
Yeah, but all right. How about this? Start of the year is Daytona. End of the year is Talladega.
No, that's not a good idea either. He was in line for the championship and he got crashed on lap one. If this race had happened at Martinsville, etc., etc.
Let's just run at Bristol and go at 3 miles an hour, unlike the last time we were there.
And do 10 laps on tyres and then we'll have an argument about that. Everyone will find something to be negative about. Ben says these 16 drivers have never met before, but by working as a team, they have a chance to win thousands of pounds. Indeed so.
Okay, so let's get back into... there's just one thing standing in their way. The chaser. The chase is on. I can't wait for this. We're going to have... Okay, if the UK broadcasters don't introduce the chase with that music, I'm very disappointed in them.
Oh, they won't.
There should be. I'm going to Get in with ITV. Now, there's no reason to shuffle the final as it doesn't matter where it is anymore. So just have it at Phoenix to decrease the possibility of rain out as possible. Good point. But then again, I don't know. TikTok Gold Award 1. Damn. I'm screwed. Oh, well, first show back, and I'm already now basically Hugh Grant. That's going to be brilliant. So, should we get to somebody who said that they were, in line of Hugh Grant, should we get to somebody who said they were retiring and then came back because they wanted to do a Bridget Jones? Let's have a look, shall we? Hi, Amy, watching on. So, after retiring from full-time competition an entire decade ago, Hall of Famer Tony Stewart will make his return to NASCAR next month. Smoke will enter the Craftsman Truck Series season opener at Daytona International Speedway, driving the number 25 Ram 1500 for Kaulig Racing. Now, Stewart becomes the first driver to be part of Ram's free agent driver program. You might remember we talked about it on the show quite a bit last year. And this has been created to bring various drivers, past and present, into the truck series, regardless of what discipline of motorsport that they are from. Now, as well, Kaulig will announce a new driver each week throughout the year. Now, the last time we saw Stewart compete in NASCAR was when he stepped away at the end of the 2016 season, and now he returns to the Truck Series for the first time since 2005 as a 19-time winner at Daytona. Now, Stewart said he's raced just about everything with four wheels at Daytona, but never a truck, and didn't hesitate when Ram asked him to be a part of their first race back in NASCAR because he believes the free agent initiative is a good way for him to stay sharp and have fun. The graphic courtesy of Kaulig Racing. Now, Matt and Tanner back with me. Matt was starting with this one as well. Are you looking forward to seeing Tony Stewart back in NASCAR? And can he contend for his 20th victory at Daytona with the new Ram 1500 truck program as well? Never know what to call that last bit. They keep changing the name. Despite, of course, being away from racing for an entire decade.
Well, yes, I am excited. And yes, he can, because it's Tony Stewart and it's Daytona, and that's what he's done forever, apart from in the Cup car. Yeah, I mean, great to have as we talked about last season when we talked about Ram. Great to have them back, and they're going to bring some, exposure, money, etc. to the Truck Series, which damn sure needs it. And to have a big name in there, it may only be for one race, but to have, one of the previous generation of drivers for which the fans have gone away from the sport because they can't align themselves with the current crop of drivers. It's another story for another day. But to have Tony Stewart come back for the Truck Series race, the first point-scoring race of the season, is a big deal. And I can already see the field coming off turn 4 in the early laps of the race with him at the front, and it'll be a Dale Earnhardt, Chase Elliott style, everyone on their feet waving their caps and whatnot at Daytona in the early laps. We'll see. I think he'll do well. He'll have plenty of help from other Dodge teammates, Ram teammates throughout the race, I'm sure. And could he pull off the impossible? It's highly possible, but it's another good thing for NASCAR and the Truck Series to have a little light shined on them to open the season there on the Friday night at Daytona.
Yeah, I am certainly excited to see Smoke re-enter the old driver's seat, especially at the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series level. I'm a little bit intrigued by the fact that this is the same guy that, had that legendary sequence after being wrecked out of a race at Talladega, where he basically said that we essentially invented this track to have insane accidents. Obviously, he went on to say that we should just turn it into a figure 8, and so on and so forth. So I am a little curious that this is the event that he chose to align himself with and put himself in, but at the same time, it does kind of align with his current career choices. In drag racing, obviously, you are trying to go as fast as possible, and at Daytona, that's pretty much the name of the game as well. So, with all that said, I think it'll be really cool to see Tony Stewart get back into NASCAR, into the Craftsman Truck Series, but um, it does make me wonder a little bit more about what his true intentions are past this. Is he going to do more races? Is he coming back to an ownership role in the NASCAR Cup Series? It brings about questions like that for me. Curious if others have had a similar similar thought themselves, but at the end of the day, it's good to have a legend back in the sport one way or the other, and it'll be great PR for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series coming into a new season where really all bets are off as far as to who the contenders are.
Yep, and coming into it as well, because Kaulig Racing and Ram are teaming up with the UFC CEO Dana White and Thrill Productions to create a competition reality series called Race for the Seat. Now, the series will be 8 episodes long and hosted by Jacob Laughlin. Now, where 15 drivers will battle each other for the 5th and final seat in Kaulig's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series program with Ram for the upcoming 2026 season. Now, it will premiere on Sunday, January 25th at noon Eastern Time on Fox, with new episodes airing for free across the world on Ram's official YouTube channel from January 26th throughout to February the 6th. Now, we also have to acknowledge that the Race for the Seat premiere will clash with the final hour of racing in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, which is airing on NBC and Peacock, so be sure to plan accordingly. Now, on the show, you'll see those 15 drivers battling head-to-head on iconic tracks such as South Boston Speedway and Virginia International Raceway. Viewers will get an inside look at the drivers' lives, which includes their triumphs and setbacks en route to rising through the ranks of motorsport. Now, looking at the graphic on your screen, here are the 15 drivers competing for a truck series with Ram. Now, it's Austin Beers, Michael Christopher Jr., Minnie Tyrell, Cody Kelly, Casey Kelly, Carson Ferguson. Then we get Cade Brown, Ryan Gemmell, Chase Burrow, Jonathan Cash, Tanner Rifle. Then we got Loudon Huffman as well coming in, Grant Geschbach as well, Jaden Fryer, and Trevor Ward. If I've butchered any of those names, I completely apologize. Anglo-Saxon, you can blame. Now, let's go back in, because these drivers are going to be up to it, because the UFC CEO Dana White said that this new reality show is all about finding the next up-and-coming drivers, giving them a massive platform with the belief of finding the next generation of superstars in the truck series, the graphic courtesy of Kaulig Racing. Tanner, standing with you on this one as well. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it, as well, coming into it, that we've got this Race for the Seat program. Do you think it's a good way to have a driver earn their way onto the Truck Series grid? It's fairly unique prospect.
Indeed it is, Josh. And, you know, one of the drivers that's in this particular program is Grant Griesbach, and he's actually a local racer for me up here in Northeast Wisconsin, and he actually is our defending track champion at Wisconsin International Raceway. So it's actually really neat to see someone from around where you live getting a shot at the quote-unquote big time. With that said, I think that it's really difficult for a lot of drivers to, especially at the late model short track level, to go from trying to get a sponsorship that helps pay for late model parts and pieces versus truck series parts and pieces, or even ARCA and their little sub series in the ARCA West and ARCA East. So with that said, something like this reminds me a lot of the Gong Show that they used to do on the Discovery Channel for Roush Racing, now RFK. And I think with all that said, knowing that opportunities are fewer and far between, and that folks are obviously struggling with, the financials of it all, I think that having a series like this, where you're basically pitting some of the best short track talent, and I would assume there's probably some there's some talented road course ringers perhaps in this group as well. I think having this kind of a promotion is only a good thing. It obviously brings a bit more of a national profile, or, I mean, I believe some of this stuff's going on YouTube, so even an international profile for a lot of these drivers that otherwise wouldn't have it. Obviously, you have things like Flow Racing and Racing America and, you know, all these other different streaming services that allow you to watch these drivers race week in and week out, but those are really for hardcore racing fans. Not that if you aren't a hardcore racing fan and you have the money to spend on it, it's not like we're saying you can't buy it and dive in head first. But at the same time, these drivers would not normally get these kinds of opportunities. And this particular promotion, especially hot off the heels of Dodge re-entering the sport, I think it can only be a good thing. That said, I don't know if taking these drivers to 2 racetracks total is enough of a sample size to really determine what their true mettle is, especially if you're just throwing them into a completely new manufacturer that probably doesn't have all of the kinks hammered out on their vehicles and their engine formula and things like that. But all of that said, I mean, as far as the driving talent is concerned, this can only be a positive for them, even if they go out there and flame out. Like I said, this is going to give all of them a bit more of a national profile and hopefully allow them to, if they're not going to win, get more opportunities to potentially run some ARCA races, run some truck races, etc., and help further their careers. And I, for one, am very excited for this. I really wish it would have come out a little bit sooner, because by the time the first episode comes out, we're going to be about a week away from the very first NASCAR Cup Series racing event of the season, and everybody's eyes are going to be pointed towards that and the Daytona 500 more than paying attention to this. So if they do end up repeating this again in the future to try to fill this seat, I would really, really, really like it if they were a bit more organized with the release rather than kind of rushing it out right before the season starts.
Yeah, scheduling is slightly baffling, isn't it? For the fact that it's absolutely that first episode is smack bang in the middle of or towards the end of the Rolex 24 coverage. Why they couldn't have put that on later in the afternoon or in the evening, God only knows. But good to see that it'll be internationally viewable. So me and Josh will be able to keep up with it, for instance, on the YouTube channel, which is nice. And yeah, let's hope that some of these names that perhaps don't make it when we get down to the crunch will, you know, as Tanner said, find opportunities elsewhere because of being on this show. Oh, he was the guy that, you know, came second on the race for the seat thing. You know, he's fairly decent. Well, let's give him a test, that kind of thing. So any Adams in the comments, so he might remember 12 years ago, maybe more now, they did a fairly similar thing down under in Australia called the Shannon's Supercar Showdown, which found Monster Energy Supercars driver Cameron Waters. He came out of that system. He won that competition to go to Bathurst and drive with Grant Denyer in the first year. British touring car champion Andrew Jordan went and tried his hand at that competition and didn't win, bizarrely, even though he was a British touring car mainstay at the time. Yeah, always on the hunt for talent, everybody is, and let's hope that, as Tanner said, you know, the people that just fall short can still find their way in through this way rather than the traditional way of doing things. And, you know, let's hope that people that have kind of sacrificed their beginning of the season and stuff to go into this competition then don't just disappear off the radar because they've put all their eggs in this basket.
If he was still there, Helmut Marko would be rubbing his hands together at this idea for a Red Bull TV exclusive. Who gets the second seat alongside Max Verstappen this time? But of course, he's gone. He's all gone. No more Austrian in there as well in the motorsport paddock. It's only one left. It's funny, if you take a look at who was there at the end of 2023 and who's there now, it's just Max Verstappen. That's mad. Absolutely mad. Smoke at Daytona, oh boy, should be intense. It's going to be. And I'm looking forward to calling that truck race actually as well. Am I there? No, I'm not there for that truck race. Oh, okay. Well, I won't be calling it. I'll watch it. I won't be there. NASCAR 2005 chase for the cup in real life, baby. Let's go. I'm so excited for the season start. I can't wait. Let's get back to 2004. That's from Kid Lan in 27. Welcome to the show. Josh, you need to broadcast the truck race that Friday night. Why not? The truck race is always broadcast, but usually the commentary comes from the radio team at NASCAR. But I can't, unfortunately, cover that Friday race. I am either doing Formula E in Saudi Arabia or I am out for dinner. So this way and that. We'll see what happens. I do remember the Shannon Supercar Showdown. I loved it. Watched every episode. Yes, I remember that. Oh, it's good, wasn't it? Okay, I don't know if we've got any more comments coming through, because if not, we do not. I'm going to say goodbye to Tanner, who is going to leave us now as well on the program. Tanner, thanks for being with us here this evening as well. I hope you look forward to the Rolex 24 coming up soon as well, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
And to you gentlemen as well, thanks for having me. It was great chatting.
Pleasure as always, my friend. See you next time. Take care. So let's go on to our third story of the evening. Now, according to motorsport.com, the Rosin family, founders of Primo Racing, have departed the organization. Now, the Rosin family has led the team responsibly for a Premier Driver Development Program that has sent numerous drivers to Formula One in Primo's 40 years of existence. Now, on Monday, the co-owner, Angelo Rosin, wife, Grazia Tronco, said Rene Rosin, and son Rene Rosin, who you've heard of, and his partner, Angelina Estro, all left their roles at Prima. Now, in this exclusive article, it says that the team was controlled by a company linked to Lawrence Stroll between 2015 and 2021. Then in 2021, the team was under the control of Swiss company called DC Racing Solutions, led by Deborah Mayer and Claudio Savinchon, who are linked to the Iron Lynx and Iron Dames. Now, in other article written by Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com, he said that the departure of the Rosin family is expected to have a considerable effect on Prima's racing programs across the world, especially its team in the NTT IndyCar series. Now, Pruitt said he's aware of interest into buying the IndyCar team, but Prima is facing an upcoming deadline to secure the season-long engine and tyre suppliers. Now, for the time being, Robert Schwartzman and Callum Miller are scheduled to compete full-time this year in IndyCar again, but their futures, along with many of Prima's other teams in the motorsport world, are up in the air. Link to both articles are in the video description below. Photo taken by Chris Jones from Penske Entertainment. Kobe's back with us for this part of the show as well. Kobe, Prima is a historic team. It's a historic legacy in junior formula. Off the top of my head, Mick Schumacher as well, Callum Miller, Robert Schwartzman been in there as well. Today, the F1 drivers that have been there as well, Ollie Behrman, and even the new protege of Mercedes with Andrea Kimi Antonelli. How alarmed are you about the future and the uncertainty of Prima?
I'm very alarmed about the future of Prima here, Josh. And for all our NASCAR fans out there, this would be equivalent to losing Junior Motorsports in the NASCAR Raleigh Auto Parts Series. As we know, all the great drivers that come through the ladder there with Junior Motorsports, you know, can obviously think of Chase Elliott, William Byron right off the top of my head. You know, Tyler Reddick was also with that program for a season. So yeah, so basically what Junior Motorsports is in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, is going to take a while to not call them the Xfinity Series, but you get what I'm saying. It would be a massive loss if Prima is not around moving forward. And based on what I've been reading so far, while it is a concern for Prima's racing programs all around the world, it seems like the one that's at most threat immediately is their NTT IndyCar Series program. And if the IndyCar program were to go away, that would be such a shame, because when Prima announced they were entering IndyCar, we all got really excited to see one of the greatest teams, you know, and across Europe with their driver development program. We're excited to see what they could do in the IndyCar series. I know they got their shop together. They came down here to Charlotte, North Carolina to have a big launch event last season, and it was just a big deal having the Prima name in the IndyCar series, considering their reputation across Europe on the road to Formula One. And Prima has been successful at every single level, and we were expecting them to rise to the top in IndyCar at some point. And we didn't think they were going to turn into another Carlin race, and that ended up, coming to IndyCar, not doing as well, and then just fading off into the distance. And given the financial situation with Prema now and the Rosen family, moving on, I'm afraid Prema might become just another Carlin race in IndyCar. So much potential, so much hype, but unfortunately, not able to continue on long term. And I also want to say that Kalamilot is the smartest man in this entire situation. I talked about him a few weeks ago. What did Kalamilot do? If you guys don't remember, he secured a full-time drive in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championships GTD class. Excellent plan B, right? In case something goes wrong here with the Prema IndyCar program and that's not able to continue, Kalamilot has something to fall back on in that case. So he's scheduled to run full-time in IndyCar and IMSA GTD. So he'll certainly be racing in 2026. So if the IndyCar program falls apart, Callum will just continue on racing in IMSA. And I'm not sure what this is going to mean for the future of Robert Schwartzman as well. Just think of just last month of May, Robert Schwartzman was on top of the world when he shocked everybody in the racing community by taking the pole for the Indianapolis 500 as a rookie, which was, one of the most incredible stories of last year's motorsport season. And for him to potentially be out of a ride after what he did last year in qualifying, never raced on an oval track before, that would be such a shame if Roberts, isn't able to continue in IndyCar. And obviously the Formula E season is off and running, so you probably won't be able to find a seat there if you're trying to find a ride in sports car racing. Probably a little too late for that at this point because obviously with IMSA, most of the seats are already taken, and then we got European Le Mans Series World Endurance Championship coming up in the next couple of months or so, and with those programs coming about, those seats, there are probably not going to be any seats available in those championships outside of the 24 Hours of Le Mans maybe. So it seems like that if Prema IndyCar program falls apart, Robert Schwartzman will be the one or so in trouble than Kalamilot. But looking at Prema's racing programs as a whole, if this entire operation were to shut down, this would be massive and a horrible loss for motorsports because they're linked to so many high-profile drivers. On the road to F1. This season they're expected to have Sebastian Montoya and Mari Boya in their driver lineup. Two highly talented drivers, who just like many before them, counting on Prema to develop their skills and hopefully go on to the world of Formula One or elsewhere in the racing world. There are so many drivers who have come through the Prema driver development program, who have reached the pinnacle of motorsport in Formula One. They've gone to IndyCar, they've gone to Formula E, they've gone and had successful careers in sports car racing. So Prema's fingerprints are all over the motorsports landscape, and it would just be awful if we lost Prema. It's just, you asked, it is extremely alarming to see this happen, and hopefully they can find a buyer, as the deadline is limited, at least keep the IndyCar program afloat for now, since it seems like the other programs will probably be affected later on. But I hope that someone can come in there, try to rescue Prema, whether it remains to be called Prema or someone buys it, and just changes it to a new name, just to try to keep this, infrastructure in place in this incredible driver development program. Hopefully it will be something like, Nitro Motorsports coming in, buying Venturini Motorsports and the Arca Menard series, so that they try to preserve that legacy, because Prema, it's not going to be the same if they were not around at all. And one last point before I turn over to you, Matt, I also wanted to note something about the Iron Dames. We've already seen the effects of, the Prema's financial struggles. It would affect the all-female driver program there with the Iron Dames. Last year, they pulled out of the remaining races in the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup. Then they announced they were not going to do IMSA this year. And then, the entry list come out for, I believe, the World Endurance Championship, European Le Mans Series. We did not see the Iron Dames on that as well. And then we're wondering what on earth is the Iron Dames doing. And then I believe just a few weeks ago, got some news on the Iron Dames program for 2026. And they're basically saying that they're ending the all-female driver lineup approach, and they're going to go with mixed gender driver lineups like we've seen across motorsports for so many years, where you'll have male drivers mixed in with female drivers. And it seemed like that the Iron Dames, instead of being a team, is going to become mostly just like a brand or initiative of supporting a female driver lineup, a part of a lineup, with male drivers. So I really love the concept of having an all-female driver lineup with the Iron Dames, regardless of what sports car racing championship it was in. But it really seems like what we've known as the Iron Dames over the last few years of having a Sarah Bovey, a Rahel Fry, a Michelle Gaughan in the same driver lineup. Doesn't look like that's going to happen anymore. It looks like we could still see them involved in motorsports, but they'll probably be a part of, a driver lineup here and there with probably 2 other male co-drivers. So real shame to see what's happened to the Iron Dames as well, because they're linked to this Prema program as well, as Josh stated earlier.
You know, I was only thinking, I think it must have been over the weekend. I haven't heard much about Prema recently. And there was some rumbling in November, beginning of December, that they were in trouble. Certainly in the IndyCar paddock, they were in trouble. Sounds like those rumblings, the jungle drums, were beating in the right direction. Wasn't flush with sponsorship ever, was it, that IndyCar, either of their cars, through last season? Obviously, they had their big payday at the 500 with the pole for Schwartzman. But it always looked like it was a bit threadbare, that program, to me. I know it was their first season and all that kind of thing, in the IndyCar paddock especially. You think about F2 and F3, of course, people are bringing money to run in that car. And Mary Boyer, you mentioned, he's a Red Bull junior. Sebastian Montoya brings with him fair backing and has done for a fair few years through coming up through the junior ranks. Being Juan Pablo's son is obviously a helping hand on that one. But I don't. If things are going to happen, it looks like it's probably going to happen to the IndyCar team before it happens to their Formula One laddered squadrons in F2 and F3, perhaps. But it was, as you mentioned, Kobe, big European team coming to IndyCar start of last season. Yeah, great. And within 12 months, it looks like it might have, one shining light at the 500 with the pole. And now it looks like it might be all going away, which is really sad for, as you've both said, a beacon of the single-seater ladder, especially here in Europe over the last 15 years plus, bringing through all these names, to just sort of melt away into nothingness, much like what happened to Carlin, of course, because they were Carlin, and they went into partnership with Rodin, and then Trevor ended up selling up to Rodin, and the Carlin name is no more. So perhaps we're seeing that again, but with more pasta involved, being that they're an Italian team rather than a team from the UK. So real sad times, and hopefully everything can be sorted and sussed, and we see them on the grid at St. Pete, which talking about the Daytona 500 coming up in 5 weeks' time. St. Pete IndyCar is not that far away after that. So hopefully things can be sorted quickly, and if Ilott is gone, then they can find someone else to come in and fill that second seat.
If only there was somebody who needs a seat who just got kicked out of a major motorsport that could be perfect. Maybe Japanese. I've got a feeling, quite fast.
Little bloke,
yeah. Likes to eat a lot as well. Can't remember his name. Something beginning with a T. But
linked with Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the guy you mean.
Running a blank. I'm sure it'll come to me as well. But anyway, let's get the latest from the Grid ePay update, and we hand back over to Matt White.
Thank you, Josh. Week one, of 2026 for the Grid Endurance Performance Index. We will have proper week one when we get to April, when we'll announce our first top 10 of the year. But the first race of 2026, which will count for the EPI, of course, if you were with us last week, you'll know that there were some races that filtered through from the end of 25 that will be in the ranking for this year. But the first race of this year happened at the weekend at Abu Dhabi, the Yas Marina circuit, for the Abu Dhabi 6 Hours, which is part of the 24H Series Middle Eastern Trophy, which rolls into Dubai this weekend for the 24. It was a win for Porsche, Herberth Motorsport, the winners, with their very Dutch lineup of Hub van Eindhoven, Loic Hartog, who many American viewers will know from his running in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America over the last couple of years, and Antares Auer, the Swiss, aboard that number 10 GT3 R992 machine. They were the winners at the weekend at Yas Marina, and they are part of a very big field for the Abu Dhabi 24 Hours this coming weekend, which is the next race of the Grid Endurance Performance Index for 2026, the first 24-hour race of the year. So we will bring you the news on that on the show next week, and that will probably start to shape how the ranking will lay out for the opening part of the season. Plenty of endurance races coming up in the next few weeks. Dubai 24, Daytona 24, the Bathurst 12 hours, and the second half of the 2025-2026 Asian Le Mans Series, which has 2 races at Abu Dhabi and 2 races at Dubai to come in February. So plenty to talk about in sports cars in this off season. He does the air quotes behind the scenes, and we will tell you all about those races in the upcoming weeks. Time to hand over to Kobe. He's got more of the week's news that was.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. For the first time since making his series debut at Bristol back in 2008, Hall of Famer Jimmy Johnson will compete in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this summer. Johnson will drive the #1 Toyota Tundra for Tricon Garage at the San Diego Street Course with sponsorship from Carvana. He'll also compete in the Cup Series race at San Diego with the team he owns, Legacy Motor Club, in a double-duty weekend in Southern California. The 7-time Cup Series champion is from nearby El Cajon, a short drive from Naval Base Coronado, so this will truly be a home race for him. Johnson said racing in San Diego means everything to him, and he can't think of a better way to honor America's 250th anniversary and celebrate where he's from. Graphic courtesy of Tricon Garage. Ross Chastain will return to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this year. Once again, the Cup Series regular will join forces with Nice Motorsports, driving the number 45 Chevrolet Silverado for 8 races alongside Landon Lewis. NASCAR made changes this year to the rules, increasing the number of races a Cup driver with 3 or more years of experience at the top level can enter in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Truck Series. Chastain is taking full advantage of the situation by increasing his truck schedule from 5 to the maximum of 8 races. He said when he heard about this rule change, he wanted to return to Nice in a larger capacity. Chastain's 8-race Truck Series schedule will be revealed at a later date, but Nice revealed a third driver who will be in the number 45 Nice Chevy earlier today, and that driver is another Cup Series regular. It's Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who is prepared to make his his Truck Series debut in the season opener at Daytona behind the wheel of the number 45 Chevrolet. And for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., his very first truck race, and been an expert, at these super speedway drafting style tracks. Stenhouse is going to run the first 2 races of the season before turning the reins over to Ross Chastain and Landon Lewis for the rest of the way. So we'll see Stenhouse in the Nice truck at Daytona, and also the following week at Echo Park Speedway in Hampton, Georgia. And in a press release, Stenhouse said that he's always wanted to run a truck, but never had the opportunity to put it together. And when the team CEO, Cody Efog, gave him a call, he said he was definitely had interest, to see what they were all building at Nice. And he said, obviously, when he won the Daytona 500 was awesome, that he loved to win a truck race there, and he's always wanted to race a truck, and especially being in competitive equipment, which is exactly what Nice Motorsports has. So Ricky is really looking forward to getting in the draft the first 2 weeks of the season at Daytona and Echo Park Speedway with Nice Motorsports, and graphic and photo courtesy of the team. Ferrari signed factory driver Lilo Wadu to a multi-year contract extension. Since 2023, Wadu has competed in 32 races with the Prancing Horse, resulting in 4 wins and 7 podiums. She also made history in 2023 as the first female driver to win in the FI World Endurance Championship when she won the LMGTM class in the 6 hours of Spa. Adding to the list of first, Wadu became the first woman to finish on the podium in Super GT's GT300 category at Sugo, and the first to win in IMSA's LMP2 class. Last year, Wadu won the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup in the GTD class alongside her co-drivers Alessandro Perguidi and Simon Mann, including the 2025 season finale, Motul Petit Le Mans. Wadu said the aim is to continue along this path to achieve more victories and keep writing motorsport stories with their famous Italian manufacturer. Graphic courtesy of Ferrari. McLaren United AS confirmed its first driver for the 2027 FI World Endurance Championship Hypercar program, and that driver is Mikkel Jensen. He's going to join McLaren next year in the Hypercar class as a factory driver. He leaves his current role at Peugeot as a factory driver there to switch to the Papaya colors. A 31-year-old Danish driver brings a lot of prototype racing experience to McLaren and is currently racing with United Autosports in the Asian Le Mans Series, the same team that will operate the McLaren Hypercar program. He'll also compete in next weekend's Rolex 24 at Daytona with United. Jensen said he's extremely proud to be joining the McLaren family and felt goosebumps stepping onto the boulevard at the McLaren Technology Center. Graphic courtesy of McLaren. Mason Massey will run full-time in the ARCA Mart Series West this year after running over 90 races in the NASCAR Rally Auto Parts Series and Craftsman Truck Series. He's going to drive the number 19 Chevrolet for Bill McAnally Racing in Arca West. Napa, Mongoose Power Solutions, and Brunt Workwear will sponsor the car. Team owner Bill McAnally believes that Massey is a winner who just needed the right opportunity to show what he can do behind the wheel and competitive equipment. Massey agreed, calling it the best opportunity he's ever had. Graphic courtesy of Bill McAnally Racing. RLL Team McLaren confirmed its driver lineup for the upcoming IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season. Max Esterson and Nikita Johnson will compete full-time in GTD Pro, sharing the number 59 McLaren GT3. Esterson made his IMSA debut a few months ago in last year's season finale at Motul Petit Le Mans after leaving the Road to F1 ladder system. Meanwhile, Johnson will run full-time in both IMSA and Indy next, as neither series has a scheduling conflict. Yuri Vips and McLaren factory driver Dean McDonald complete the driver lineup for next weekend's Rolex 24 at Daytona. Despite having such a young and inexperienced driver lineup, McDonald believes they can contend for the win in GTD Pro. Graphic courtesy of RLL Team McLaren. And over at Richard Childress Racing, they announced some major competition changes today, and starting with the first change. Mike Dillon, the father of Austin and Ty Dillon, he's been named Chief Operating Officer at RCR, and in this position, he's going to be heavily focused on competition and administrative functions, and he's going to provide forward thinking and direction in all areas of performance and operation, with an emphasis on recruiting and retaining top talent in the industry. And Mike Dillon, obviously been with the organization for a long time. He's served as the vice president of competition, director of team operation. He's also a former NASCAR driver as well, and also has served as a spotter, and he helped RCR's O'Reilly Auto Parts Series program launch and really take off in the late 1990s. And he's also helped out with their driver development program as well. And then Johnny Klausmeier, his focus is going to be on competition leadership for RCR as the technical director. He's going to oversee all technical engineering activities for the high performance motorsports team and focus his energies on vehicle systems, engineering design, and metrology. And Andy Street, he's been named the performance director at RCR, and his responsibilities are to focus on research and development and increase overall on-track performance across the company. And he's also going to, continue to serve as crew chief for RCR's part-time number 33 Chevrolet Cup Series team as well, whenever they decide to enter Austin Hill or Jesse Love in a race later this season. And looking at the RCR's crew chiefs, as previously announced, Jim Pullman, who's worked with Justin Allgaier the last few years in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, going to be stepping up to the Cup Series. There'll be Kyle Busch's crew chief, and Richard Boswell is going to return to the crew chief for Austin Dillon's number 3 team. And Richard Childress in a statement says that RCR has assembled a talented team of professionals to lead their race team into the future. He praised Mike Dillon, Johnny Klausmeier, Andy Street for their great leadership skills, and he's just looking forward to a great season for RCR. Graphic courtesy of Richard Childress Racing. And according to a police report obtained by WC in NC Charlotte, burglars broke into the home of late NASCAR legend Greg Biffle, and in this incident, this burglar stole $30,000 in cash, and I believe they said there was another item as well that was taken alongside the $30,000 in cash. It was a backpack as well that was missing from the home, and this comes just a couple of days, before a public remembrance event scheduled to honor Biffle and all the victims in the plane crash. And this special event for Biffle is scheduled for this Friday at the Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. The doors are gonna be opened at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and the service for Biffle and the other victims, this is going to start at 11 a.m. Eastern time this Friday. People are not going to be required to buy tickets. It's going to be open to the public, which includes fans, and the service is going to be live stream for everyone who's unable to be there in person. Graphic courtesy of NASCAR. And that's all of the headlines I have for y'all tonight. So I'm going to turn over to Matt to see what you guys come up with for Hots and Knots, since we don't really have much going on at the moment.
3 things to mention before we get to Hots and Knots. As Josh started with the Greg Biffle stuff, and we've ended with it, those people, and this is an Alan Partridge reference, which not many people will get, scum John, subhuman scum. No pick a winners to do tonight. The next pick a winner points available for everyone to get on the board are for Monte Carlo WRC and the Daytona 24 hours. Thank you, Kobe, for flashing the rules up. There it is. If you can get yourself on the board, there is only 2 people on the board. Congratulations to Jason, who A, sent us a super chat last week, and thank you again for that, and B, correctly picked Nick Cassidy to win in Mexico on Saturday. So we have 2 people on the board for the 2 Formula E races that have gone. That is Alex and Jason. So well done to those guys. And everyone else, it will be hunting you down as more pick-a-winner races become available. Before we get to Hots or Nots, the last thing I've promised this for weeks, we're going to do it. If Groby gets rid of the graphic, then I can do this properly. And we will do episode 1. He's beat me to it. I've made my own. Cali Watch. Because we've mentioned we were going to do this over the beginning of the season, because we are keeping tabs on Cali Rovanpera's road to open wheel stardom from WRC champion. And his first single-seater races happened at Hampton Downs at the weekend in New Zealand as part of the Formula Regional New Zealand, which is happening over the next 4 weeks. 4 races at the weekend, 17th in the first race, which was aided by a 10-second, well, not aided, but he had a 10-second penalty in that race. He finished 12th in race 2 with a 15-second penalty. If he didn't have that 15-second penalty, which was for a push-to-pass infringement, he would have finished 8th. 13th in race 3 on Sunday, and a DNF in the last race of the weekend. There was a multi-car accident at the beginning of that 4th race for which he was involved. 3 different winners over the weekend. Louis Sharp, Zach Skular, and Ugo Chukwu got 2 wins. So anyone that's been watching Formula 3 last year would know Sharp and Ugo. They were down there plying their trade over the winter, and they got wins at the weekend. Cali Watch episode 2 comes your way next week, because they're in action again at Taupo, home of supercars races, of course, down there in New Zealand this weekend. So Cali Watch will continue. I will keep my piece of paper ready to flash up on screen again next week. I didn't realize Kobe had the graphic ready to go as well. Cali Watch will continue next week. Right, Josh back for his first appearance in the Hots and Nots segment of the year.
Hello.
Well, not much going on, obviously, as we're in January. And I didn't watch Formula E because, of course, I'm well behind on things.
Well,
what to say? Not much. Me and Omi made the best of much, even less nothing last week. So,
well, I think the best thing was Nick Cassidy winning a non-peloton race. That was quite a surprise. Citroën becoming the 20th different Formula E manufacturer customer to win in Formula E, and Cassidy winning 4 out of 5 races. That's insane. And he's changed team. This man just knows how to win. And I've said, after that race in Mexico, you'll see it when you watch the whole race, Matt, you'll understand. Me and Jack Pickering were saying about how he is so competitive. He is so in tune with these cars. He's an early pick for the championship. Honestly, Cassidy could win the title. And that's insane. You know, they've done so well, Citroën, to come in for this year alone with Stellantis, who threw money to get Cassidy in that car and worked, because Cassidy was no longer happy with Jaguar. So it's working. And that's sort of the only really hot you can go in through. Good 150th race, though. Did enjoy it. Enjoyed it a lot. Oh, actually,
is going to be part of Peugeot's WEC lineup this year.
Yeah.
Part of,
I'll throw in, actually, because I'm sure you'll see quite a bit more on the Grid Network too when we get to our Miami race for Formula E. Formula E are doing something completely different that NASCAR kind of do, but that's only because we've all got media passes and we can get access. Formula E have thrown open the doors with what content you can use completely free to the public. Race highlights, driver interviews that they do during the weekends. They've sent us literally practice and qualifying highlights that we can use. Side-by-side SkyPad segments that we've called the Apex Pad, and we've done a new one called Stewart's Watch. Formula E has opened its doors to the point where we are in discussions of showing the actual feed during the race. So it'll be like we are now, me and you on one side of the screen. So it'll be the commentators down one side, and then the TV pictures just alongside us. So we're that close. Formula E, outstanding. absolutely outstanding. They are by far taking over as one of the best sports for fans and sports for openness I've ever seen. I'm mega impressed with what they've done this season. So yeah, I think that's a top hot. And there's a couple of other things that I can't talk about just yet that are coming up.
On the back burner. My Formula E catch-up is about to happen with Berlin of last year. That's how far behind I am. I'm still in July.
Good race, I think, if I remember correctly.
2 Berlins and 2 Londons, of course, to come at the end of last season. And I'm at Supercars Townsville. That's my next thing on my list from that weekend. So that I'm very much behind. I don't really have any hots, really.
Surely that we're a week away from Rally Monte Carlo,
which is going to be very cold. I suppose to piggyback off what you just said, hot Formula E. 6 races into the history of Formula E, it looked like it was almost on its deathbed, and we've got to 150.
Yeah,
and it's still going, and it's still brilliant.
I'm super proud. I'm super proud of. I think we all consider it our baby, don't we? It's just so proud.
It's nice to have, and this was the same with A1GP. There's your A1GP mentioned for the week. It's nice to have a champion. And again, I'm behind, but it's nice to have a championship where you go, I've watched every single race that championship's ever run. Yeah,
it's fantastic, and you can pick out bits in your brain, going, "Oh yeah, do you remember when we raced in? For instance, we were in Moscow, and we had the Kremlin literally in the background." And Justin Wilson did that amazing move around the outside at the chicane, and one of the tightest circuits I've ever seen. It was comical. You think Azerbaijan is tight with turn 8 and then wide on the straight. No. We had 7 lanes across for the start line, and then we had the tightest chicane where it was one car only possible. And Justin Wilson went round the outside. And what really, really destroys me is that a week later he was killed. It could not believe the luck. That's unbelievable.
Would have been,
but yeah,
wow.
Yeah,
the wonderful places that Formula E have been to, Moscow. I always used to like the very beginning, back to like early days of Formula E. Putrajaya was such a great track, and Sam Burke was always good, and he won by a long way, I think, in the first year.
And then who won the second year? It was, it wasn't. I don't know, because Buemi stopped and Prost came in, so. Who won the second
all those days of car changes, and there was a crazy racing season 1 at Buenos Aires. I remember that Antonio Felix da Costa won for Amlin.
Punter was good. I always liked Buenos Aires as a circuit.
Punter was good. Sanya, the only year they went there was cool, but we're obviously going back there this April or May, whenever it is.
Yeah, 3 back-to-back in China.
But, it might not be the same layout, but yeah,
that's weird to go 3 back-to-back.
Hot for Formula E for still being here. Omi says Formula E Middle East and F4 UAE also back this weekend with the GOAT Samson on course.
Oh, good old Jake Sansa. He's had a lot of bad luck with not getting the Super Formula, but he's bouncing back, and he's so happy. He's so good. He's got energy. He's like a Duracell bunny. He's always got energy. It's fantastic. What a guy. What a guy.
Brought that up, actually, because that was a knot that I forgot to mention last week, that US, you had Speed Channel, in the Europe and in the UK we had Motors TV, and they used to show all sorts of things on there. WEC, Asian Le Mans Series, the Xfinity Championship,
all the touring cars,
first touring cars and supports before ITV took it away from them and had it under one. We had WRC on there, highlights back in the day before that went elsewhere. Motocross, all manner of bonkers stuff that they could find and put on, especially during the off season, when they would show Australian Mini Challenge, Utes, those new jet sprint stuff that were just mad.
My mate, Abby Dewhurst, who in the UK, she was a BBC weather reporter. She's now a podcaster and radio DJ. She worked with Special Stage Extra, which was the rally championship here, classic car rally, and she was fantastic. I used to give her a ring and say, "How's it going?" She says, "I've just done a course lap, and when I was going around, the SOS board fell on my head." So that's the way it goes. But yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
All that positive that Motors TV used to be when it was a proper TV channel, Sky number 454, 4545, sorry. That's ingrained. Is now been taken by Zach Brown's Motors. When Zach Brown owned Motorsport, they took it off television and made it streaming, and it's about to be gone completely.
Yeah. I knew they were in trouble because James Allen was head of Autosport and Motorsport,
too, yeah.
and he's jumped, hasn't he? He's gone over somewhere else now, but he's back in Formula One. He's some sort of sponsorship deal he's running now, and he's going to be involved heavily in that. But
they was announced just before Christmas. I feel like that Motorsports TV was then changed to is going to be no more, which is just a real shame because there was hours. I used to have the PDFs on my laptop to tell me what was on when. They were available on the website. I think at one point I was second or third in the forum in terms of posts. Back when the forum, there was me and a few of them people on that forum that were the hub of that forum, and it was great every night, just on there, just gassing about rubbish. These are the days before Twitter and Facebook. Of course.
Oh, these were the good days before everything, when forums were like. I remember a crazy one I read as well was about the BBC F1 commentary team back in the day as well, and everyone was sort of going one way or the other, and then you just had randomly coming in Will Buxton going, no, they're both good. I was like,
they actually had Simon Hill would pop up on there from time to time and stuff and comment, and it was all excellent, but it's about to be no more, much like Speed Channel in the US.
That's a knot. That's a big knot. You're right.
Yeah, huge knot, which I forgot to mention. But thank you for the Jake Sampson reference made me wind back because I saw his post on Facebook about Super Formula not being able to do that perhaps this year. So, which is a shame for him.
I'm just trying to think what the hot would be for this weekend. Raw before the 24. That's all I can think of. The testing. The
wheels down. Well, they used to call it the wheels down test at Daytona, and then the Raw, that's this weekend. Rolling into next weekend, which is race weekend at Daytona.
Great for us this weekend.
Early mention of Mazda MX-5s at Daytona. I know I said it last year, don't miss it. And then it was carnage in that second race where they all piled up at the start line, and it was basically a 10-minute sprint race.
Fun, man.
It's always excellent.
It gives us a chance this weekend to set up our broadcast ready for it. It's going to be a big one. Hope you get to be on for some of it as well, because I think we're linking up with USN streams as well, which is going to be a lot of fun.
For this weekend, there things happening behind the scenes here, which are not great. But looking forward to Daytona 500 when my commentary year begins.
I can't wait. Honestly, the Daytona 500 is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait. And Bowman Gray as well. I'm 50-50 on whether or not to give Bowman Gray to Mr. Owens and set that one out. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But Matt, thanks very much for your company this evening, and we'll bring Kobe back in a moment. But right now, I will run you through our outro proceedings, which includes with please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you liked what you saw tonight, you can send us a YouTube super chat to show your appreciation. We've now passed 1,700 subscribers, so please help us reach our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air, and you can follow all our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Tashelle, Robin, David, Matthew, Crystal, and our newest Patreon supporter, Nico, who all invest in each month in the Grid Network as well. And we encourage you to join our great group that keep us on the air all year long. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to all of this is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and get your name on the board. Invest as much as you want and consider buying your favorite on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. So for Kobe Lambeth, Matt White from Grid Insurance Performance Index, and Tanner Smith from Pit Box Press, I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.